As per popular demand, I am creating a video on how to 3D design with Tinkercad today. Some background info: I am a STEM librarian and I frequently teach students how to do Tinkercad because I find it's the easiest 3D design software to start with. I do use Blender. I'm not that great with it, and I would recommend, if you want to do Blender, go find other people who are qualified to teach that. Don't come to me. I am not a professional when it comes to Tinkercad or 3D design. This is just personally what I use because I find it's easiest, especially in terms of like getting started with 3D design, and it can be very overwhelming to try and do it. So today I am doing a tutorial on just very basic things to do in Tinkercad, as well as some examples of different things that I have created using Tinkercad for my cosplays. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to do when you use Tinkercad is just create an account. You're going to go to your side tab, you're going to click Designs, and then Create, and then New Design. And it's going to take you immediately to your work plane that you can use to create anything on. So this right here is your entire work plane. It's the big blue thing. Now the thing is that your work plane on this actually doesn't mean anything because all of this is workable space. Your work plane only exists so you have a concept of up and down. In order to navigate, I use my mouse, and you can use the right arrow key to just kind of rotate. You can also use the cube up in the corner by either just clicking on specific locations with your left mouse key, or you can click and drag and it will allow you to kind of move stuff around. The house button takes you back to your main home view. Your fit to screen thing is the little square shape. So let's say you have multiple different shapes that are just kind of out and you're working on different projects. You can't really easily super scroll in on some unless you sit there and take the time to like click over in that area and start scrolling in. It's a little bit of a pain. So if you want to like super specifically get up close and personal with one of the objects, you click on it, you click fit to view, bam, you're there. And the plus and minus, as always, are zoom in and zoom out. There is a switch to flat view. It's nothing I've ever personally used. It's a little confusing for my brain to understand how to use it, so I just don't bother with that button, but it is there if that makes it easier for you. On your left-hand side, right underneath the Tinkercad logo, you have a bunch of little things of importance, and it's your copy, your paste, your delete, your duplicate, your undo, and redo buttons. These are your best friends. You have, again, several other buttons that you can click on the right-hand side, which are along the side where your toolbox is. And those are your group and ungroup buttons, your toggle notes button, your line button, your mirror button, and your magnetism button to get things to snap together. You also have the import and export buttons, as well as send to if you want to send your project. You can import designs either that you've created or stuff from other creators on Tinkercad, as well as 3D models that you have downloaded within a certain size limit, as well as the amount of faces that it has. It will limit somewhat with that. So if it's like a super complex shape, it's probably not going to do well in Tinkercad because Tinkercad is much more simplistic. So my rule for all of my kiddos when I'm doing this is that I never let them get off the basic shapes tab because anything else kind of gets a little bit funky. There are a bunch of user generated objects, which I'll admit don't usually 3D print really well, and just because of that, it's down here where it says shape generators, you got feature collections and stuff like that. I just don't bother with that stuff. There are a bunch of other things such as creatures and characters that you can use. There's structures and scenery, hardware, electronics, fun and games, everyday objects, all of that stuff. I personally don't use any of that because I really like to make my stuff from the ground up. And again, not all of those things are guaranteed to 3D print correctly, which is really frustrating. So I just prefer to stick with basic shapes because I know that everything within basic shapes is going to be able to 3D print as long as I can make it where it's not way too complex for my printer. Within your basic shapes, you have basic shapes, cylinders, pyramids, cubes, spheres, and the like. You also have some additional options like text. You have some little accessory options such as hearts and stars, and of course, the all-famous D20. And you have one of my personal favorite things, which is Scribble, which I'm going to show you all real quick how you use that. I personally prefer using Scribble when I am on my tablet with a drawing pen, but Scribble is literally where you can draw. And then you can see up here in this corner, that is where it shows you your preview of whatever it is that you've made. You can erase it, and it'll update the preview. You can click undo. You can clear it completely. And as long as you don't group your Scribble with anything else, you can actually go back in and edit it, which is really cool. Your two shapes that are up here at the very top are your pre-made transparent shapes that you can use to create holes, like actual cutout holes in your things. Anything that you create on here, though, you can change into a hole. There is an option for that. Let's say we've got this really nice hexagon shape. and you want to cut out, for whatever reason, a square out of part of the side. And you can cut stuff out. You don't have to cut all the way through it. You can get really creative with it, where you only cut part of the way through something. This is starting to look like a really messed up Pac-Man. But like I said, you can also take any of the shapes that you already have and turn it into a hole. So like with this heart here, I can click the hole option that's over here next to solid, and then just kind of stick it somewhere. Boom. Pac-Man has a heart now. To manipulate your shape, you can use the white squares on the corners as well as the black squares on the sides. The black squares on the sides are going to be the ones that allow you to very precisely change the length and the width of those specific sides. So as you can see here, when I click and drag, it allows me to change just that one side. Same with this one down here. Whereas your white squares in the corner are going to allow you to change both at once. And as you notice, there are numbers that pop up as you're doing it. You can, in fact, type in your own values if you know exactly how big you want it to be and change it that way. Also, in case you didn't know, it should be stated, everything with 3D printers is in the metric system. So especially with Tinkercad, Blender, any of these other ones, they're using millimeters as their scale because that's what all 3D printers use for their own like measurement scale of their build plates. You do have an option where you can move stuff around and it allows you to move it at like a 1 millimeter snap. You can change that as high as you want or as low as you want all the way to off. I usually like to sit around a quarter, just so I can easily move stuff around very, very slowly. The white square in the center allows you to change the height. Same thing as usual. You can change it with whatever number you'd like. You just type it into that little box, you click it, and there it goes. You will also notice that there are some curved looking arrows on the side. These allow you to tilt your shape. As long as your mouse is kept on the inside of this larger circle, you can tilt at a 15-degree angle. If you're on the outside, it starts doing it at a 1-degree angle, and it allows you to do length, width, and height on all 3 axes as well with that. And the last main thing that you need to know is that there's this little black triangle right here, and all you do is just click and drag up and click and drag down, and that changes the height that your object sits at. If you want to be able to change the shape of your object without having it completely distorted, like when you click on the corner, it just changes like that. If you want to keep it a perfect circle, you click and hold down your shift key on your keyboard and then drag it, and it keeps it at a perfect size and scales it up all the way around evenly, including the height. There are options as well in your little drop-down menu where you can change the smoothness, such as with the cylinder, you can change the sides. And you see how the sides get much, much smaller, which makes the shape itself much, much smoother. You can change the bevel on it. You can start to see it kind of up here, and as the number goes up, your shape becomes more beveled, as well as the segments, which does allow it to become smoother. I don't want to cut a line all the way through my keychain. So what I'm going to do is click on the black triangle, lift it up a bit. You can change the angle of where you're looking. I would highly recommend to make sure that your shape is not cut all the way through. So to group my shapes and cut out, I'm going to left click and hold off to the side, not on the shape, but off to the side until a little red dashed line pops up like this. I'm going to drag down. You don't actually have to highlight both shapes. You can actually just grab a little bit of each like this. And then I click the group button up in the corner, which is this square and circle that's been merged together, or you can use the Control-G shortcut. And as you can see here, it has made a channel directly through exactly where I had my nice little square. Now, a new feature that they've recently added that I've only kind of just started playing with, you can now click and drag objects and it will shift it to sit right on top of the thing that you're trying to make, which is really cool when you're using curved shapes. So you have the round roof piece. You go and you add something to it, and it will allow you to put it on any of the sides that exist for this round roof. And there you go. It's just up there. Instead of having to sit there and tilt the piece entirely like exact to set it on top of something, it now auto does it for you, which is really awesome because it didn't used to do that. So here's my Pira design. I'm actually going to take this thing apart using the ungroup button so you can kind of see what I was talking about. In order to create my Pira shape, I wanted it to be really nice and round, which was really hard to do with the shape I was using. And I know it looks like a mess right now, as you can see here. there's this half circle hole bubble, and I grouped it all together, and it left this awful floating shape above it that I had to get rid of. So what I did was use this new feature where you can just place shapes on these different angles, like so, and I just went all the way around with it, making sure I hadn't cut into my very nicely domed shape that I made, like so, and then group it, and I was able to start deleting this annoying floating shape that I had. It took me a minute, I had to go all the way around it, but in the end, I had the fully functioning Pura sigil that I could 3D print and use for my cosplay. You just have to be really careful when you're doing this that you don't accidentally set it on top of the thing that you're trying to delete. But this is what's really fun about the hole feature, is that you can use the holes not just to like cut designs into stuff, but to literally chip away at something that you're creating to make a better, cleaner shape. Now, because I messed up the undo, I have to go back and redo all of this. Tinkercad is for basic stuff. It's not for like these heavily complex shapes of like cherubs with harps in their hands and, you know, Mercy from Overwatch and stuff like that. It's very simple, but it allows you to do a lot of tweaking to pre-existing designs as well as creating like small little details that you need for stuff. I personally really like it. I find it's really fun and really easy to use once you get going. It's just getting going that's kind of can be a little bit difficult, but I highly recommend you try it out, see what you can do with it. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I'm more than welcome to answer them because I've been doing this for quite some time. So there might be something that I have not fully explained in this video that I could answer better in the comments. Let me know what you make with Tinkercad or something that you've already made, either with Tinkercad or 3D designing as a whole. Again, I'm not a professional. This is just something that I happen to do for my job. I'm entirely self-taught, and it's just something that I'm really passionate about. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all next time.